Thank you for tuning in to Tuesdays with Andrea podcast. I'm Andrea, and today we have special guest Judd Lofchie. Thank you so much for joining us today, Judd. I appreciate you for being here.
My pleasure. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year. And you are a real estate broker and attorney, and you have been alderman for the 10th Ward on the East Side for about 3 years. Lived here for more than 20 years, and you have a history of advocacy and community support. And I wanted to show you this clip because you were mentioned on the season 1 by Jessica Banta.
Awesome.
And let's just play that really quick.
Okay.
You're never too old. You're never too young. We all bleed red. Doesn't matter what you look like, who you are. It's help the next person. Help your neighbor. That's really what I hope people get from Relief Coalition. I'm a restaurant manager. Brandon has a degree in marketing. Judd is an alderman who's a lawyer. Diane works at a food pantry. We're just regular people.
This is what I love. You're regular people who have a vision for good and are actually doing it. And you find a way to work together and to just make it happen.
I'm in my 20s. Brandon's in his 30s. We all come from different backgrounds. We all come from different, lifestyles.
Yeah.
And we all came together to make a difference.
Yeah.
And that's what we really want people to know. It's like, doesn't matter who you are, how old you are.
I love that.
Nice.
And Jessica, she was talking to us about the Relief Coalition and how you helped her get the connections that she needed to start the food pantry service delivery that she was doing, and really just provided that network of support that she needed to make the difference that she felt she was called to do.
She and we and Brandon and Diane from the food pantry and my wife, and they had a host of volunteers. We did. It was born out of, hey, what happened in March of last year to all the restaurant workers? There's so many unemployed, the restaurants closed down, and some of them, didn't have a savings, so what could we do? And I knew Brandon, I don't remember exactly now, but my wife's on the board of the food pantry. I volunteer there all the time. So we got them hooked up, and I think March we started, and we did for 8 weeks. We did 200 or 300 cars a day, filling it with food. Mm-hmm. And people were so thankful, and there was no judgment. Hey, it doesn't matter why you're here. It was really great, and they were great, and we did a lot of good, I think.
So what planted that seed in you for community service and wanting to give back, right? You're a very successful guy, real estate lawyer. You don't really have to do this.
Right. You don't have to, but like Jessica said, we all bleed red, right? That was a great statement. So I grew up, Andrea, with parents who were givers, right? My dad was president of the Ray Graham Association for the Handicapped in Elmhurst, and my mom was a tutor and did picture ladies, and we were always volunteering, them more than me, but I think it just, instilled, they didn't have to do it either, right? My dad had 3 restaurants, and what he found was, when you do good things happen, right? So he's hiring all these handicapped people because he's kind of the president, so he wants to set an example. They were his best workers, Andrea. They didn't call in sick. They showed up. They're always smiling. They love to work. They love to get out of the house. So, I just saw it, and then, my thing was the homeless, right? I interviewed this Mitch Snyder, this famous homeless activist in Washington, D.C.
How old were you?
I was, probably late 20s, maybe 30 or 29 or 30, something like that. And he was inspirational, right? He said, Judd, it doesn't matter if you have diabetes or cancer. If you don't have food and shelter, you're going to die, right? So Mitch Snyder was his name. Martin Sheen made a movie about him. He slept on grates outside. Ronald Reagan, the president, promised him $2 million to build a shelter. Reagan didn't give it to him, so he went on hunger strike for 40 days. He almost killed himself. But it worked. He got the money and he built this cool shelter. So when I moved back to Chicago, in 87, I'm like, what can we do? So we were raising money for other homeless organizations. And after a few years of doing fundraisers, which we all know takes a lot of work, I saw it on TV. I didn't invent this. I copied it. Streetwise. It's a homeless paper. We started August 24th, 92. We've helped 13,000 homeless people. We had 300 people sign up the first week. 300. Can you imagine starting a business with 300 new people? 13,000 people through the door. 4 40% of them, according to Northwestern Business School, got another place to live, a job, or a full-time job. And they've sold 13 million papers, and it's like, the adage, give them a fish, feed them for a day. Teach them how to fish, feed them for life. Mm-hmm. So we gave them a job, and it's still going strong 30 years later.
Wow.
Yeah.
And when you were younger and you saw your parents giving back, they probably gave a lot of time, I'm sure, money. And I think that the biggest sacrifice is the time that you give towards meetings, organizing, getting the word out, finding sponsors. Right. This is all work.
Yeah. And I'm proud to say that it worked because it affected me. And then I've taken my son. We volunteer once or twice a month at the Hesed House homeless shelter in Aurora. And I've taken him there 1,000,000 times. Mm-hmm. Serve food, work in the store, stock, whatever he needs, they need to do. So hopefully it'll translate down to him.
Mm-hmm. So then tell us how you got into real estate and law. What made you want to go into to be an attorney?
I don't know why. I always kind of thought I would and knew I would. I don't know. I don't really know exactly why, but...
Where did you guys grow up?
Grew up in Elmhurst.
Okay.
Went to York High School.
My husband went to Elmhurst College.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good school.
Mm-hmm.
And went to University of Michigan after that, Pepperdine Law School, and then American University Law School, graduate law degree. And then lived in D.C. for a few years and then moved back to Chicago. And, I'm a Midwesterner and I love Chicago. I love the West Coast. I love the East Coast, but my heart's kind of here.
What brought you to Aurora?
So honestly, I was living in Chicago and my wife and I came out to visit her girlfriend in White Eagle on a golf course. And I'm a golfer. I'm like, God, would it be cool because we were going to have a child, live on a golf course. So White Eagle was too far. So we ended up living in Stonebridge,
Another great area though.
Yeah. In Aurora and near the train I was commuting. So
no golf course though, right? Do they have one?
Oh yeah.
Oh, they do.
Yeah, they have a nice golf course.
Look, I took golf in college because I needed like an easy A. I stacked up all these hard. Right. I was like, this is going to be an elective. It's going to be easy. C-.
That's hysterical. Oh, well.
My swing is a little bit better. I enjoy going with people. It's not my sport.
But it's a social thing, right?
Yes.
And as long as you can play, it's good for business, I think.
And even if you can't play, it's a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. Top golf is fun.
Yes, Top golf. And so then law school and then real estate.
Right. So my dad was a real estate broker. Even he had his restaurants, but then on the side he did real estate. And I'm like, that's kind of cool. So I got my license while I was practicing law. And, for the last 25 plus years, I've been doing real estate, brokerage, development. And when I lived in D.C., there was a magazine, the Washingtonian, I think it was called. Out of the top 100 people, I think like 70 of them made the top wealthy people list, all from real estate.
Really?
Yeah. So that's where the wealth, there's certainly nowadays, especially IT and tech companies is, but traditionally real estate's been a great
wealth builder. Yeah.
Perfect word.
And that's one thing that I really love that you're here because this is your expertise. This is your background. Sure. And I think economic wealth and building wealth is really important for anyone who wants to get ahead. Yeah. That it's important. You want to provide a good lifestyle for your family. Mm-hmm. You want to be able to have opportunity and choices into where you live and grow. And the reality is a lot of people can't do that right now, especially a lot of people from our Aurora community. So what real estate tips can you offer that might be practical and useful?
I share space with Century 21 on the west side of Aurora on Galena. And I know an agent there who basically put all of his children through college because he had rental properties. Mm-hmm. So, Warren Buffett said, if I could figure out how to buy 200,000 single family homes, I would do it. And, when one of the smartest, richest guys in the world says that, you kind of listen. Single family homes has always been the best investment. I kind of like commercial better, but for someone starting out, you typically, for a house you can buy 3.5% to 5% down. Commercially, you need more like 15% to buy a house. Sometimes it's 20 or 25, depending on your credit. But if you can buy a $200,000 house in Aurora, put 5% down, $10,000, and then make money doing it. The rent's got to cover the mortgage and the taxes and the insurance, things like that. Mm-hmm. If you hold it long enough, hopefully the price goes up typically 3, 5, 7% a year. It's real estate's been crazy the last 15 years, but I think it's 7%, 3%, even 3% or 5%. So, when you compound that 3%, 200,000, what it's worth in 10 years, Einstein said the most powerful thing in the world is compound interest. So when you take 3% on top of 3%, that $200,000 house in 10 years, right, could be worth 275 or 300 or 250. I don't know what the number is, but essentially that's a great way to do it. Make sure that the rent will cover all your expenses, and then make like 7, 8%. 10% is great. 15 is unbelievable these days. Because think about it, in the bank, you get like 1% now, right? Stock market could be good, could be bad. It's gambling, right?
But is this a good time then?
I think it is. Right now, it's a seller's market more than a buyer's market because there's low inventory. But because the interest rates are so good, I've practiced law a long time. And there were times rates were 15, 17%. Now they're like, you can get a home loan, even on an investment, probably at 3%. It's unbelievable how cheap it is. So I think it's a great time.
And are there any programs that can help people in terms of, people are just trying to buy their first home, right? But is there any programs that you know of that help? Let's say in my situation, I have one home. This is my main home.
Right.
But I would like to buy a second property.
Sure.
If I don't have the $35,000, $40,000 that I normally, would put in to a single family, are there any loans or programs to help with that?
So you just have to go to someone who, like we use First Centennial Mortgage in Aurora, and Linda Callahan will help you make sure your credit's as good as it could. Because sometimes even just raising your credit 50, 70 points can bring your interest rate down a half point, which over
time makes a difference.
Exactly. So, I would talk to Linda and then read, take books out of the library. I've done that. Meetup.com has a bunch of real estate classes. There's a group called Renatus, Renatus. They used to meet in Downers Grove before the pandemic. I think it's all online now, but it's like Thursday nights at 7. But it's like maybe $1,000 to learn how to invest in real estate. They have all kinds of classes, all kinds of networking opportunities, and I think that would be a great one because, the guys on TV, some of them charge like $30,000 to learn how to invest in real estate. It's not, to me, that's crazy.
Those are scams, are they?
It's not really a scam, but it's just, you're going to have to make a lot of money before it pays it back. And I'm telling you, I think this Renatus and there's some other meetup groups like, investing in real estate where they have classes that are meetup, I think is free. But I think if you join like a Renatus, that would be a great foray, and it covers, most of Chicagoland.
Definitely worth our time is what you're saying.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. What about what you look for when you're looking at real estate? How did you build your portfolio? I mean, obviously you're educated in it, so you know exactly what to look for. But when you're trying to build your wealth, what do you look for?
So, for a property, you've heard the adage, location, 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 right?
Is that still true?
It is still true. It is still true. Less so now because neighborhoods gentrify, they get better. So, but you don't want to be in like a really like high crime area, right? Where there's lots of crime, and there aren't many around here anyway. Aurora's pretty safe, but you can talk to the police, you can FOIA, Freedom of Information. I'm looking at a house in this area. What's the, how many burglaries, how many things like that. And usually realtors can help you with that. So I recommend working with a realtor? A realtor who knows investment properties, not how to sell homes, but also how to sell investment properties, to look for, the maintenance, the insurance, things to look for. Because like anything else, you got to hire a good professional. You have a good team. You need a good lawyer, a good realtor, a good mortgage person, a good insurance person. And then if you're not handy,
that's like 4 people.
Oh no, there's more. There's more. So if you're
see, that already sounds very expensive. But
well, it can be.
It can be, but in terms of if you want to build wealth, you have to put in some. Okay.
Exactly. And then if you're handy, great, you do the work. If you're not, you have to find handy people. But honestly, I think Nextdoor is a great place. Nextdoor.com.
The app, you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
The app. I need a plumber, and I live. I would recommend buying a house close to where you live. I've made the mistake before buying something in Chicago an hour away. You get a call, hey, my sink's clogged up or whatever, then you have to hire a plumber. It's $300 where I could fix it myself. So I think really location, good area, but also location to start out where you live.
What about an investment property that was also like a vacation home? So I've heard what you just said is the general advice that I've received is buy something where you're at. Know your area. You're able to be there. But the other side of me is like, well, if I buy another house, maybe it's going to be in Florida, like somewhere that I want to visit.
Sure.
But what you're saying is the cost can add up if there's problems.
Well, no, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And if you love Florida and you want to go there, but think about it, to spend a week or two a year, at an investment property, then certainly you can rent it out. But it used to be those places that rent it out for you took 10 or 15%. Some of them take like 50%, 60%, so
it eats into
it does. Okay. It does. I don't know. I think take a vacation. I mean,
you're like, just take a vacation, Andrea.
At some point, if you have a few properties and you want to go spend a month or two, then it maybe totally makes sense, but if you're going to spend a couple weeks a year and then rent it out and have to deal with it, I don't know. I wouldn't do it. Any
other tips that you can give in terms of real estate?
So there's like apartments, you can buy 2-flat, you can buy a 3-flat, 4-flat,
What areas are the most profitable in this area of Aurora land?
I think it's more just finding the right house, to have a realtor who's watching the hot sheets every day. Hey, this house just came on the market. It looks like a decent deal. Let's go check it out. Let's put in an offer. Mm-hmm. Watch those shows on TV. Torek and Christina, like, hey, this came on the market today. Let's go look at it. Boom, I want to make an offer. I'll pay cash. If you have cash is always king, they say, right? Yeah. So if the thing's offered for $200, these days, I had a realtor client who put a house on the market, I think a little over $200 on Monday. He said by Thursday he had 20 offers.
Wow.
Yeah. So
was any of them cash?
Yeah, I didn't ask him, but right. So,
and you say cash is king because you can negotiate a better price.
So if someone's going to buy a house right now, it's a seller's market. So let's say they get a great price at $200, but the person has to go get a loan. So they have to basically take it off the market 30 to 45 days. 30, 45 days, maybe rates go up. Maybe there's a coronavirus. Who knows what happens? Cash, once you sign the contract, they're going to close in like 30 days or less. Mm-hmm. You got a done deal. You can start looking at your next property. If someone is, getting a loan, it may fall through, whatever. So
there's a lot more variables that can happen and people want certainty.
Correct.
Yeah. You mentioned coronavirus. Has that impacted the real estate industry? Has that impacted real estate owners in terms of property and costs?
I think it's helped the market become more of a seller's market because, first of all, I think people are at home. I've heard statistics how they're spending more money on their house because they're not going anywhere. They're not taking trips.
Yeah.
Right? So values are going up a little like that. But because of coronavirus, people don't want to show their house. They don't want people coming into the house. So there's less inventory. So the supply and demand, there's less supply, same demand or more. People are like, hey, maybe we should move. They're thinking about their house. So prices are going up. It's a great time to sell.
Great time to sell.
Yeah.
Yeah. I read that you were a Rotary member.
Yes.
I attended my first Rotary meeting on Monday.
Cool.
I hadn't heard of the group before.
Yeah.
And my colleague, she's a Rotary member in San Luis Obispo, California. And she made an introduction for me here. And I attended the
Plainfield? Which one?
No, the Two Brothers Roundhouse. It was a Zoom meeting one.
Sure.
But it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where I started. My dad was a 20-year Rotarian, and when I moved to Aurora, I just called up and joined that club. Mm-hmm. I was president of 5 years later. We started that Festival of Lights in Phillips Park.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Still going on. Rotary is the largest service club in the world, 1.2 million Rotarians, 30-some thousand clubs in 200 countries. So if you have a passion, after I speak French, as we were talking about before, when that hurricane happened in Haiti, I called to the Port-au-Prince Haiti Club and speaking French, what do you need? Well, they need tents and they need food. So our club sent 7 shelter boxes, like a huge box of stuff that's like a tent and food to live for 6 months, right? So you have a passion for Africa, building schools. You call the Nigerian Lagos Club. Hey, can we partner? Our club has built water wells in Guatemala. We have a exchange student from Venezuela. Rotary's cool.
I love the service aspect, the mission of service and living your life in service. And I love the way that the meeting ended with the 3 questions. There's like
four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Is it beneficial to all concerned?
Yes.
If you live your life by that, it's pretty good.
Can you repeat those questions again? So these are 4 questions that it just makes it's a good checkpoint, right? Like, and it works with any decision, like anything that you're facing.
Yeah.
If you can,
is it the truth?
Is it the truth?
Is it fair to all concerned?
Is it fair to all concerned?
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
And is it beneficial to all concerned?
And is it beneficial to all concerned? Yeah.
That's it. So if you live your life by that, you can't go too far astray.
I love that.
Yeah. So our Rotary Club, let me tell you. So I switched from the noon club in Aurora to the morning club. We meet at 7 a.m. on Wednesday morning at Mother's. And that club, so each club has a little different dynamics.
Yeah. And is it because of meeting availability? So when I'm looking at the different meetings in my area, some of them didn't work.
Right.
And so the noon one tended to work the best for me this month, and it probably will continue.
Yeah.
Is that the difference between the groups?
Pretty much. I mean, you go to Rotary.org, you put in your zip code, and you'll see 5, 10, within so many miles. Usually like the big cities have 2. I think Aurora has 2, Naperville has 3 or 4. So there's a breakfast club, there's a lunch club, there's a dinner club, there's a social club. So whatever works for you. And then honestly, it's sort of like art.
What do you mean art?
Well, you could look at that painting and say, I don't like it. I could look at it and say, I love that, right? So it's sort of personality driven, these clubs, right? Okay. So you go there and you get a feeling, So I switched to the other club, and their big thing is youth exchange. So we have sent 200 kids all over the world for like a year of school. They come back and they speak to our club and say how it's totally changed their life. Traveling, as you and I spoke about, is like one of the greatest things and greatest educations you could ever get.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe every high schooler should travel international. I believe in travel in general opens your eyes. It shows you the world is bigger than yourself.
Yes.
Shows you how big you can serve in the world.
That's it. So our club usually takes in 1 or 2 students a year, and we find 3 different houses from our members or friends, and they go from house to house just so they get a different representation. They go to West High, and then we send out, I think we usually send out like 10 kids a year. We sponsor 10 kids. Because of coronavirus, we didn't do it this year, but hopefully we'll bring that back. But yeah, it's awesome.
And would you recommend other people get involved?
So I've done a whole bunch of things in my life, and I started a networking group called Aurora Business United. So we have 2,500 people, and it's a networking group, and it's the second Friday of every month. And I've made a lot of connections and some business from it, and I do other networking groups. I honestly will tell you, even better than my own Aurora Business United Club, which is free. If you want to join it, just go online to Facebook or Meetup. Rotary is the best thing ever. And I was not to be political, but I was at a Rotary convention because they have them all over the world. And Tammy Duckworth, our Illinois senator, who, was a military vet and a Purple Heart, she spoke it and she said, I knew I was going to like this club, these people, because you pay to join a club to volunteer. So you're good people. And I've made, business, Rotary's about service and about networking. Business, right? So, and honestly, the third thing is friendship. Some of my best friends right now are Rotarians, which is, we're all kind of like-minded, live by those 4 principles. And so I think Rotary's been the best thing for my business ever. Yeah. And it's not expensive. I think our club is $25 a month.
Wow.
You get coffee and, whatever. Yeah.
And if you go to one, you don't like the vibe, there's other options. There's
Absolutely.
plenty of other options.
No, absolutely. And
no hard feelings on groups. And
absolutely. Yeah. And you should check out a few. And then once you join and you travel, or even if you don't, like you're in sales, you can go to the other club and say, hey, I'm here from the Aurora Rotary Club. You go to Naperville, Plainfield, Oswego, Yorkville. You get to meet people. So,
have you done that? Have you popped into other?
Yeah.
What's your favorite group that you popped in on, location-wise?
My favorite one is probably Chicago 1. So Rotary started in Chicago.
Wow.
And you know how a few people don't like lawyers? Well, Rotary, the largest service club in the world, whose foundation is, I think, the best in the world, one of, if not, they have $1 billion. We give hundreds of millions a year away. Started by a lawyer.
That makes you happy.
That makes me happy. So I love going to the Chicago 1 Rotary Club because it's where it all started. And it's just sort of like going to Mecca, going to where.
Yeah. The origin story location.
Yeah. But I will tell you one story about Rotary. So when I was president, most clubs, including ours, sends the president to the Rotary Convention. They move around every year. My year was in Birmingham, England, close to London. So I got to go to England. I brought my son, just he and I. And at the convention, the keynote speaker was Jane Goodall, the famous, lived with the apes, super famous, wonderful lady. The convention, like the speaking thing, we got there right before she was to start. It was sold out, so we didn't get to see her. I was so disappointed. Here I am, dad, late. Son doesn't get to meet her, His mom's not happy. And then we take a train from Birmingham to London, and who sits right in front of us but Jane Goodall?
Wow.
Right? I said, hey, Jane, let me tell you about this homeless paper. Do you think I could ever interview? She goes, let's do it. Right now I'm interviewing. She goes, wait a minute, the BBC's calling. I got to put you on hold, right? So we ended up, helping her off the train. She gave my son a book, signed her name. It was really cool. So.
And how did you build that? I'm in the interviewing space, but newer, right?
Yeah.
And it sounds like you've had to do this a lot in terms of trying to just promote the work that you're doing. Do you ever get nervous in those interviews and when you're meeting someone and you're talking to them?
I'm sure I have, but it's been a long time. Because of Streetwise, the paper I started, 30 years ago, I've been speaking like almost every other week. At the beginning, like a couple times a week to service clubs, to junior league, to the First Press Church, to whatever. So I think like anything, you get used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get used to it and then if you know it, I don't have to prepare to speak about Streetwise. I've lived it for 30 years, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, no, I don't think so. I was a little nervous interviewing Jane Goodall just because she really should be like a Nobel Peace Prize winner.
Anybody else that you've interviewed that stuck out to you?
Well, Mitch Snyder, this famous activist, he was just really a cool guy and, changed a lot of lives. I have to think about it. I've been fortunate enough to interview a lot of people. We got Michael Jordan and Oprah on the cover of Streetwise, and of course we sold out.
What?
Yeah. I didn't personally interview him. David Schwimmer from Friends came to Streetwise.
What?
Yeah, so David Schwimmer from Friends.
I'm impressed with David Schwimmer,
right?
And then Oprah and Michael Jordan.
Yeah. So David Schwimmer came to Streetwise because David Schwimmer went to Northwestern, I believe. And he started his acting career in Chicago, right? Uh-huh. He started at the Edge of the Looking Glass Theater, which is where Streetwise at 13th and Wabash started from.
Wow.
When we took it over, it was a crummy space. So he came and said, hey, I'm David Schwimmer. I was on Entertainment Tonight. This is where I started. And I explained how Streetwise worked because I was there, right? They told us he was coming. So I explained it to him in 60 seconds. He went on the show, Andrea, and it's like he started it. He was like, he didn't need any lines. He's like, this is how it works. They come in, they buy it for a quarter, they sell it for $1. They get a place to live. Judd's got 52 of them at the Ohio East Hotel, living there, paying $110 a week. He was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Don't you love it when people open up themselves in that way? Especially when they don't have to.
Right. And he said, call me. Here's my phone number. Call me if you want to start one in LA, which is, halfway around the world at that point. So, but I did talk to him once afterwards. Great guy.
Now you're alderman of the 10th Ward.
What made you want to become alderman? And why are you running for mayor?
So being a lawyer and a mostly commercial real estate broker and developer, you have to learn how to do business with cities, whether it's Aurora, Naperville, Elmhurst, Glendale Heights, you could name a million of them, right? And Aurora seemed like one of the hardest, because it's big. We have a lot going on. We have limited staff, but it just seemed to be so hard to do business. And, you want to get businesses open. They pay taxes. They create jobs, right? So I complained about it for years. And one of my friends said, Judd, shut up. I'm tired of listening to you complain. Run for office.
Really?
Yeah. So I did. And I'll be honest, I ran twice and lost.
Oh.
And I ran a third time and I said, this is it. If I don't, third time's a charm, I either make it or I'm done. And I won.
Okay. So when you lost the first time.
Yeah. I learned a lot. You in life, right? You can build a house on your own because you could do it, or you hire a builder who's experienced to build a house and you work with them. So I kind of thought I knew everything and ran for alderman for the whole city because, I thought everybody knew me. Well, they didn't. The second time I didn't work hard enough. I thought I was a shoo-in, my qualifications versus the candidate against me. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
And I lost. Because she knocked on a million doors and I didn't. I knocked, but not as much as she did. So I learned.
And so third time you were ready.
Third time I got a huge team of people. Yes. So I'm running for mayor because it's time to change. Aurora's $1.1 billion in debt in the red. And the current administration wants to spend another $100 million we don't have. $50 million to move the casino, $35 for a warehouse for cars and trucks. And we're $1.1 billion in debt. We just had to raise our taxes 3%. I mean, at some point, you just got to say, all right, enough's enough. The state of Illinois is in rough shape. That's not a good model. Let's not do that.
What do you want to accomplish if you win? What is your main goal?
My main goal is to get our financial house in order, right? I mean, most cities, Naperville's in pretty good shape. I have friends on the council there, but Aurora's, we're not. We are not in good shape financially. We spent $10 million on vacant land, used up our line of credit, and then the pandemic hits, right before that. So we have a lot of properties. We need to get rid of them. We don't need to be in the real estate business. Let the private sector do it, because when the city owns a building, there's no property taxes. We have to maintain them. We have to insure them or self-insure them. So get rid of all the properties we have, but basically get the financial house in order. Stop the crazy spending, cut where we can. And, we lose millions of dollars every year because we don't bid out professional services. East Aurora School District started doing that and saved themselves millions. So we're going to build a road, which we do a great job getting 3, 4, 10 quotes to build a road. But the engineer, we don't have to get quotes for. So we'll get one bid from a good company and it'll be like $200,000. Okay, great. But if we got 3 bids, it could be $100,000. But since they know they don't have to give us the best price, there's no accountability.
Because there's no competition, is what you're saying.
Exactly. And they know it. And if they do a lot of work with the city, I'm not saying they're ripping us off, but we use national pricing contracts for things from 2018 from Mesa, Arizona. Well, when we buy police cars, that might be a good price, but we don't know if that's still a good national price because we're not calling the local Ford dealers and saying, hey, what can you do for us? So I would beef that up a lot. I know we would save millions on that.
And you're currently serving as alderman.
Yep.
And you currently work with the mayor. Is that awkward when you go to work and you're like, hey, I'm applying for your job?
Yes, it's very awkward. And I really probably would have preferred to be an alderman for more years. I love my job as a lawyer and realtor, but I just see the path we're heading down. And, $1 billion could turn into $2 billion. Illinois went from 1 to 10 to 100 billion. We got to stop that. So luckily, I should say luckily, but we do Zoom every Tuesday, so that's the only time I come in contact, and Zoom is online. So people are watching.
You guys play nice.
Not always. We got into it a couple weeks ago and we had a little shouting match because I'm passionate about not spending $115,000 of taxpayer money on a legal bill when we told the city not to go ahead with it. So, I don't like to take any stuff. And yes, it's very uncomfortable. But the deal is it's always been pretty much the alderman, the mayor working together. So.
Mm-hmm. And there's 14 aldermen?
12.
12 aldermen. What does that role really do for the constituents?
Right. So each ward, there's 10 wards, has 20,000 residents. Mm-hmm. And we represent those residents on everything. You know, we have a meeting every Tuesday. Then we have 2 committee meetings. I'm on infrastructure and technology and public health, safety, and transportation. So, you know, stuff comes through. We need to buy body cameras for the police. We got to review it. You know, let's get 3 bids. Are we going to move City Hall? You know, we're not. I'm just saying, but, you know, like, are we going to build this $35 million warehouse or not? We need to review it. You know, there's lots of issues that come up. So there's the bigger stuff, and then there's, hey, Alderman Lofchie, I have a pothole in front of my house. Can you fix it? Absolutely. Called streets department. Boom. Within a few days, my street light was out. After the big snowstorm, someone's globe, you know, fell off. Street lights. Speeding is probably one of the biggest ones. Unfortunately, there's not much we can do for speeding. Water breaks. Neighbor disputes. There's sometimes neighbors want to kill each other.
What can you do with neighbor disputes, though?
Call the police. No, sometimes call the police. Sometimes go talk to them one-on-one and then say, hey, look, what's the real issue? It's not that her stereo or his stereo is too loud. It's they don't take care of their lawn, right? If they took care of their lawn and they didn't have garbage out, I wouldn't care if they played loud music once in a while. But you put it all together. So I'll call a person and say, look, would you do this for me? Would you just mind? Because you're going to get a fine anyway if the city, your grass is over 6 inches. Please cut the grass more often.
Yeah.
You know?
And they do.
And they usually do.
Yeah. When they get a call from you, though, they're probably like, all right, alderman's calling.
Yeah. A call or a letter or both. I mean, usually call, but sometimes they don't answer. But I'll sometimes show up. I'll knock on the door. And I'll say, hey, I'm not going away. Let's try and work this out.
Mm-hmm. And did you like serving in that capacity?
Absolutely. I mean, my whole thing is I have a passion for public service, and I think you have to do this because it's a kind of a thankless job.
Yeah. Kind
of in the complaint business.
Right.
Nobody says, hey, great.
You're doing a great job.
Right.
You are doing fantastic.
And I don't know that anybody in any job, how often you get it from your boss or your coworkers. Andrea, you're awesome, right? But it's worse when you know, it's mostly the complaint business. So, did I answer your question?
Yeah. You like it. You have to have a heart for it, because in order to be in this business and have a thankless job, you have to do it because you want it. You like this.
It's kind of who I am personally. Like, everyone's got their thing, right? You know, I love doing volunteer work. So I'm on the Chicago Sinfonetta board, the Streetwise board. You know, I'm a Rotarian. I've done Greenfest. Hesed House, we volunteer once or twice a month. Marie Wilkinson Food Pantry, probably once or twice a month. Chamber of Commerce. I've been on Rita's Prison Ministry, a reentry. You know, so I've been on from the Kennedy Institute to this to that to small to large nonprofits. And luckily, they're all kind of apolitical.
Would you say that this work drives you?
Yeah, I absolutely, you know, if I couldn't volunteer, I would be like, you know, I'm a giver kind of person. So it feeds me and I love it. You know, I have friends like that. A lot of Rotarians are like that. And there's not only Rotary, there's Kiwanis, there's Lions Club, there's Exchange Club, there's Key Club, there's Junior League. There's lots of great. I would say check them all out and pick one. And if you know somebody, it's always good to, even if you don't though, I just called Rotary and started, but I think it does. And like I was telling someone recently, if I died and they said, you know what, Judd was a nice guy, I'd be like, darn it, that was a wasted life. I want people to say you really cared and you worked hard. You know, Moose Heart's a really wonderful group in Batavia, right? Mm-hmm. So they take 225 kids a year, feed them, clothe them, educate them from kindergarten to 12th grade. There was a student from Congo who came over who wanted to play basketball. And he had never played in his life. He played soccer, but they didn't have a soccer team. So he tried basketball, and the RHSA said, well, he's 6'2". He was 127 pounds at 6'2". Mm-hmm. You know, you recruited him, so he can't play basketball. In fact, no kid in the state who lives at a high school can play sports ever again.
Why?
Great question. Because if they can live there, they're going to recruit them.
Okay. That
was their thing. Well, I said, well, if Moose Heart was recruiting them, they should fire the recruiter. In 100 years, they hadn't won one sport ever. Oh, they won. Right. So So anyway, so I sued the IHSA and I won, and he got to play. His first game, Andrea, he took 17 shots. He missed every shot. So if they recruited him, they said.
But he was playing. He was doing what he wanted to play.
He was playing it, and I loved doing it. Even it was 3 years of time that I didn't get paid. Really, it was a volunteer gig.
Pro bono type of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Felt good to.
And what are you most grateful for?
Wow, I got a great family, mother, sister, son, wife, very supportive, amazing supportive wife. Health, career's been great. Love giving back through volunteer work and being an alderman. I listen, I have important things. I do important things for the neighbors. I have garbage cleanup days and electric recycling days and shred days. I'm kind of being facetious, but
do you have days off? Do you take days off? Do you do travel and vacation and leisure time? No, it doesn't seem like you.
No, I do, but after a week, I kind of get like, I need to go back to work or, whatever. But during this campaign from like last summer till now, no. 7 days a week.
Does your family ever get tired of that? I grew up, my mom was a giver, is a giver, and she instilled that into my sister and I.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate that now. But growing up as a teenager, I'm like, why are you going to help them? I'm your daughter. I'm here.
Yeah.
I need you to. So like, does that ever happen? Do you ever have that conflict?
So my son, after age 14, he was okay with me not being around at all. He
was like, bye.
Yeah. Let me know. My wife is very similar. She is a nonstop Energizer bunny. So
you're like, no, this is our life. This is our mission.
It bothers me sometimes because I feel I need to unplug, right?
Yeah. But you're plugging away and you're going strong.
Yeah.
Who would you say are the three most pivotal people in your life? When you think about where you are today and the people in your life who've had a chance to change the trajectory, have there been any people in your life who are that for you?
Yeah, I would say, first is Mitch Snyder, the fellow who inspired me to go down the path of helping the homeless. I have to think about it. Second, for sure, my parents. Both of them were givers, and both of them were, very supportive. And I think you can change a child's life by being, you're good enough. You can do it. Just believe. And my son actually told me, Dad, believe in yourself. But I think that parents doing that, because I have friends that didn't have that, or even where like their parents were not so supportive, and some of them can never get over it, So that's another.
Yeah, instilling confidence in your kids and building that esteem and talking life, speaking life.
Yes. And then my wife, who's just been so supportive and helpful and didn't know how good a marriage could be,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They say that's the most important decision you'll make in your life is who your partner is, because that either helps you grow or it keeps you back.
That's probably true, and the fact that I want to do politics and she's okay with it, and not only is okay with supporting. I remember seeing Barack Obama. He was a senator, and he said, I want to run for president. His wife's like, no, and where isn't it going to stop? And I don't blame her, because that's I feel under the microscope. I can't imagine running for president. That's crazy. But she did support him, obviously, in the end. But it would be hard, if you didn't have that.
Yeah. And it certainly sounds like it's helped you spread your reach and be able to go out and give more of yourself, knowing that home front is good.
Absolutely. And she's brought me into the food pantry, right? I never volunteered at a food pantry till I met her, and she got on the board and writes grants, and I go there. And yesterday I had a meeting there with bringing other nonprofits to network. So she's opened my eyes up to that and to bicycling. I love it. I never biked. Other than, a little growing up, but she bikes 30 miles at a shot. So I had to get a bike, and I love it.
Yeah. It's great for the summer months.
It's fun, a thing for a couple to do.
What do you think the world needs more of right now?
Compassion, not divisiveness, not us versus them, not Republican versus Democrat, not pro-choice, not just let's work together. Issues aside, we're in a pandemic, for God's sakes. Let's work together. Let's love each other. Let's not be divisive.
Do you see that in the business front and in government? And is there room to build more of that? And how can you do that?
I think there's always room to be better, right? And a lot of government employees are there a long time. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know, but sometimes you don't know how you come off, But I think that we as a city need to bend over backwards to help people, right? We have a $450 million budget. We need to help restaurants. We need to help tenants who can't pay their rent or their mortgage. We need to help landlords who also can't pay their mortgage because the tenants aren't paying their rent, So I think that we need to do good. I think we are doing good, but certainly, we could always do better. It's sort of a priorities. Do we spend $10 million on vacant land and $7 million on 2 hotels and knock them down? That's $17 million. Or do we spend $1 million on mental health, which is a big problem, right? Mm-hmm. Do we spend $1 million on giving $50 or $110,000 scholarships to college to kids, right? Mm-hmm. Who can't afford it, or whose parents make a little too much to get a loan, so they're not stuck with $200,000 in debt. I went to University of Michigan. I think it's 50 or 60 grand a year now out of state. Who could afford that? Mm-hmm. Crazy, right?
So how do you reconcile those two when you have policy decisions and major budget constraints and needs to be more fiscally responsible, but then still wanting to have compassion for people? How do you reconcile those?
I think you always start with doing the right thing, right? And the return on investment. My wife had said this. What's our return on investment on the vacant land by the outlet mall? It's zero. It's actually negative $300,000 a year. We're paying $25,000 a month interest on it, where we could take in $25,000 a month and put it into helping people, right? Now, I'm a business person. I'm not anti-growth and let's not spend money. If we had a plan to do a Geneva Commons, which I helped with, right? Or some big developments that they could bring in money and create jobs, but to just buy vacant land to sit there to someday maybe develop it, and then it costing us a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So prioritize people first and helping and the things that, we need in Aurora: jobs, education, public safety, right? Let's prioritize those. And then if we're going to invest in something, let's invest in something that, let's buy a building and create a vocational center, right? A youth center. I met with Ron Hain for a couple hours at a podcast like this, Good Morning Aurora, and he and Jamie Mosser, they're talking about the new crime bill. I said, well, what do you think? What's the answer? He said, well, in summer of 2019 or the spring, I had a job fair. 450 kids got placed into jobs, like high school kids or students. He said, we had a quiet summer. Crime went down. So we need to do a better job at connecting people.
And we've seen a lot of a spike in crime, and I'm reading articles and they're saying it's youth. And kids aren't in school every day anymore. And they don't have the active social club sports, and that's important.
It is, right. So yeah, our shootings are up 40%. Our murders basically doubled. And we need to give them something to do. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, Judd, thank you for being here. I appreciate your time. And I thank you, and I wish you all the best.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to Tuesdays with Andrea. There are hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there, and I appreciate you making the time to listen to mine. If you like this show and want to know more, check out TuesdaysWithAndrea.com, or please leave a review on iTunes or drop a line in the YouTube comments section. Until next time, please stay kind in your mind, nice on the web, and stay hella hopeful in your heart.